So good afternoon. My name's Amyn Amlani, and I'm here with HHTM, and I have the great pleasure of speaking with Annie Duchen, who is from WS Audiology. And we're going to talk today about OTC hearing aids and how providers can help their patients make the right choice about their hearing care. More specifically, we're going to cover the topics of effectively integrating OTC into one's practice, the strategies for having the OTC conversation with patients, choosing the right OTC product for patients. And we're going to do that based on the level of their hearing loss, dexterity, their literacy, and so forth and so on, and the importance of OTC product support to hearing healthcare providers and their patients. So, Annie, thank you so much for being here, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So it's now been about 6 months since the FDA's final ruling on the OTC hearing aids. What have we learned in the recent months? Anything notable or surprising?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. This is a question we get asked frequently. And I think what we're learning is really exciting information and news, which is that with OTC users or customers, we're seeing that they are starting their hearing health journey sooner. So the average age of an OTC user is about 59 years old, and they're starting that journey about 3 to 5 years after noticing they have hearing loss instead of that 7 to 10 years that we've seen traditionally. When it comes to these users, what we know about them so far, things like affordability, accessibility, and a trusted brand name are purchase drivers for OTC products.
That's interesting. And you all just came out with a new set of products. Can you share that with the audience, please?
Yes, absolutely. So WS Audiology has partnered with Sony to offer two over-the-counter hearing aid solutions. One is called the CRE C10. We call it the C10 for short. And one is called the CRE E10, which we call the E10 for short. Now, there's two solutions so we can help get at the priorities of different users. For example, the C10 is a small, completely in the canal design. It's meant to be that sleek and nearly invisible design for somebody who has a concern maybe about cosmetics, but still wants some support with a hearing aid. And then the E10 is an earbud style, and this is a rechargeable device that offers Bluetooth streaming. So both our products are self-fitting, and you're able to use Android and iOS to do the self-fitting and setup process, which helps them customize the devices close to their hearing loss.
That's wonderful news. And so you've got these products out now, and how are you seeing hearing healthcare providers incorporate these devices into their practices?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we really see the importance of and success that comes with integrating are those providers that are embracing OTC in general. So they're seeing OTC as a new opportunity, either as a marketing opportunity to bring in or to lead in new people into their offices or practices, but also as a way to ensure that they have a comprehensive offering of solutions for all people that enter their clinic so they can reduce the number of people that are leaving without a solution for their hearing loss.
Yeah, so this new category of OTCs is going to generate a new type of practice. Are you starting to see any new types of best practices given the OTCs entering this space?
Well, if we think about those group of providers, hearing care professionals that are embracing the product, the most success they're having when it comes to integrating this product is trying to find a place to start. Now, we try to break this down in a way that's simple and understandable that helps expand their practice without completely changing how they're doing things. But there's an opportunity to offer OTC either with a provider consult, which would be in the case of someone's in their chair and they have mild to moderate hearing loss, and for whatever reason, a prescription hearing aid is not the option they've chosen or desire. That's a great time to bring up OTC. Since it's an over-the-counter product, it can be discussed about and offered either online or by their front desk staff who handles calls and walk-ins and things like that. And so that's the other way they can offer OTC hearing aids. So when we think about providers who are integrating, they're typically starting with one option or the other and seeing how that fits in with their current practice model and how they can help expand their offerings to people walking in or calling in to their practice.
Well, that's wonderful. And how are these conversations with patients taking place?
So it depends where they decide to start, right? If they decide to start, let's say if we think about the typical patient journey when someone walks in or calls in, their first interaction is with that front staff person. And so in that case, those are the people having those conversations. If someone brings up OTC, helping them understand very quickly, could they be eligible for this type of product, or should they see a provider for a consult? And then in the case of providers, we're working hard to help educate them and help them understand what types of needs or traits a patient might bring up that could hint to the provider they could be a good candidate for over-the-counter hearing aids. These could be things like need for need or want for a different journey than prescription hearing aids. They want a more convenient option. Maybe they're seeking something that has a different value than prescription hearing aids offer. So helping providers understand that in the conversations they're already having, if they can open up the way they're listening and some of the questions they're asking, they'll get a good idea pretty quickly if OTC could be an option for someone in their chair.
So we just had the conversation about the provider and the value propositions which they offer. So now let's flip the script and talk about what patients should be aware of regarding the differences between OTCs and prescriptive devices.
Absolutely. So WSA and Sony, we do want to drive awareness and understanding about hearing health and the importance of people doing something about their hearing health sooner. We want OTC to be a catalyst for this conversation and help them understand that they don't need to wait until they have a big problem to do something about their hearing health. But we also know that many consumers seek information, and especially detailed information, like what is the difference between a prescription hearing aid or an over-the-counter device, from hearing care professionals. So in that way, we've worked to support hearing care professionals in finding ways that they can explain this to patients, both that are succinct and understandable. And while we know as professionals there are many differences between these products, how can they do it in an understandable way where it doesn't take up their whole appointment? So there's simple language that can be used to show that these are different products. They're both safe products, but there's a different journey that goes with them. And for example, prescription hearing aids involves the hearing care professional to tailor and program the devices, whereas the OTC devices are a self-fit, more independent journey to customize the products to their hearing loss.
So now let's bring the funnel down a little bit more and let's get into the weeds. There's a lot of different products on the market. How do we know which is the right product for a specific patient?
That's a great question. I think it's important to call out that over-the-counter hearing aids are specifically designed for adults with perceived mild to moderate hearing loss. So that's where you have to start, right? You have to make sure you're eligible for the products before you decide which one is the right one for you. It's really important to us that these products, the Sony OTC hearing aids, end up in the right ears for the right people. And we've done a lot of things to ensure this, that the safety and high quality are top of mind. And when you think about these products and the importance of the choice a consumer can make, it's important that they know that they're making a safe and high quality choice. Now, when it comes to our products, some of those things that we've ensured to include so that safety and high quality are top of mind are things like our products are FDA registered medical devices. That means they follow all the rules and guidelines for over-the-counter hearing aids. And in addition to that, we've added extra safety features within our app and self-fitting process. So beyond the packaging that's required, right, that notes medical red flags and encourages people only to use these products if they're not experiencing those things, within the fitting process, we've also added in some smart algorithm safety features that will alert the user based on the results of the hearing check or the hearing test they do during that self-fitting process, if this might not be the right product for them. And then they get some support either from a hearing care professional or our support team to help them understand why and what they should do next.
That's really interesting. And you brought up the term features. So what OTC features are important to understand and assess when making a recommendation?
A recommendation from a provider to a patient in terms of OTC?
Yes, correct. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, no problem. I think it's a similar conversation that you have when you're deciding any device for somebody, right? You first want to make sure you want to understand what are their priorities and features they're looking for in devices. For example, if someone's main priority was cosmetics, they wanted a nearly invisible solution, I would recommend the C10. Now, if I had another person who came in and said, my priority is that I want a device that's streaming and I like to listen to my iPhone to media and things like that, then I would recommend the E10. So knowing the differences between the features that some of these products offer and then suggesting them based on the patient's needs and priorities is the best way to help them decide which is the best option for them.
So now that we've talked about safety, we've talked about features, let's talk a little bit about support. And what's the importance of customer and product support from your organization?
It's super important. So we know that the intention of over-the-counter hearing aids is for it to be an independent journey. We also know that independent journey means different things to different people. And so we have a comprehensive support set up to help people along their journey. So the first thing we thought of is, okay, if this is really that more independent user who's purchasing the device, they might be seeking support in an independent way. And so our Sony product support site offers extensive frequently asked questions lists, as well as instruction videos about different ways to use or interact with the product. For example, how to get the batteries in your C10, right? Or how to clean your hearing aids. Things like that, that these are public and available to anyone and could be used by consumers or providers who are offering these devices as support tools. And then we know there are people who are going to want more support than that, who will need live support. And so we have two-tiered live support for either consumers, purchasers of these products, or for hearing care professionals who might have questions about the products as well. So our tier one support, there are agents that were trained specifically on these products and how to work with and support people with mild to moderate hearing loss. They spend a lot of the time doing things that we as providers probably spend too much time doing, like pairing Bluetooth questions, general app and phone use questions, right? And so they're really meant to set up, help the users with success with setup with the devices and any questions they have about the technology. And then we have tier two, which are two audiologists, and they can do everything tier one does. But the other things that they do is support with general counseling related to success of the product and use of Sony hearing aids. So, for example, we have people who will call in and say they're having a hard time getting their device paired. Our tier one agent will sit on until their device is paired, get them through the hearing check, that self-fitting process, and through the customization. And they're a new hearing aid user. So then they might say something like, my voice sounds funny, right? Which we as providers know is a very typical report of a new hearing aid user. And so that's part of where our tier two would step in and give some counseling to why we expect that as a new hearing aid user, or you have a CIC style, and here's what that means. And then lastly, we're really here to help find a solution. And like I said, ensure these end up in the right ears. So if there is any concern that this product is not the right product for someone, that could be related to their results on the hearing profile check, or maybe they're alluding to issues with dexterity, challenges with manipulating the devices. We will tell the consumers that you should go see a hearing care professional. It sounds like you could use some additional support in this journey. So our goal is to ensure that the people who have these devices and are using them, they're using them in the most optimal way for them. And if we find out that's not the right choice for them, we want to make sure they do end up with a solution, because ultimately that's what we're after, right? Improving access and audibility for people with hearing loss.
Annie, it sounds like you all have thought this thing completely through. You have the complete journey and ecosystem built out, and that's absolutely wonderful for both the provider, for the patient, for the profession as we think about hearing healthcare. And as you pointed out earlier, it's moving the needle from people waiting 6 and 7, 8, 10 years before they adopt a device to maybe an earlier date, so to speak. So thank you so much for these insights, and we look forward to having you come back and share with us more information and more data as this OTC market continues to evolve.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time today. It's great to share what we're learning so far, and looking forward to sharing what's to come.
Great, thank you.